on this rap-ish. I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list. Hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That trade season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it
I hate
for
these
us.
average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Grand Rising, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and it is a great Tuesday we have today. You know, just a great start to the week. And if I can real quick, I just want to thank all of you guys for your continued support every time that we're able to uplift things that are happening in community and bring you guys other opportunities for you to stay engaged. It's a great time for me. I know that there's so many great things that happened over this past weekend. We've been capturing some of that. I know we have some more coming up throughout the week. And as always, I do this with my partner, my guy, co-host with the most, Big O. What up, Big O? Happy Tuesday.
Hey, what's up? Happy Tuesday, Trey Holiday. Welcome back to the set. I see, as usual, you're coordinated. If I would have known, but I've got every color here, so I think I'm matching you no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. You make it a gold standard for today, all the colors.
Well, all right, good stuff. Fantastic. Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you to the Morning Update Show and remind you that right now is a perfect opportunity for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people who you feel would appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. Now, I always get on a spiel, and I forget to tell people who's on the show today. So let me stop right there. And so we've got Dr. Howard J. Gale from SeattleStop.org. It's a police accountability and oversight organization. They're looking to enact some changes here in policing. So that's our guest. Got it out early, right? So I don't forget. All right, we'll keep it moving right here. I want to remind everybody that, well, first of all, of our partners, big shout out to our partners at the South Seattle Emerald and KBCS 91.3 over at Bellevue College. I want to remind everybody that you can listen to the Morning Update Show anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. Right there, they're putting SoundCloud in the links, but also you can check out Google, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. Also, a heads up that a great way to support Black-owned independent media while letting people know that it's no excuses is to go to whereweconverge.com/shop, pick up a No Excuses t-shirt or sweatshirt. We'll make sure and get that right out to you. As usual, a reminder that the vaccine is readily available here in King County. That's right. The link is there in the comments. If you're looking for the vaccine, there's the Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, all available here in King County, readily available, free of charge. And in some cases, they can come to your house and give you the vaccine. Moving over to our events calendar. Throw that up right now. So today, what's going on? We got something, I think, Friends of the Waterfront is happening there. It's a peer down into the water. Yeah, it's interesting. We're supposed to have a graphic up for that. I think they've fallen asleep over there this morning. It's quite all right, but we'll keep it moving. You can go to whereweconverge.com/events. But we want to remind everybody that our events page is in this beta set testing right now. So we encourage people to send us your events. You can find the link in the bottom of the website where it says submit calendar events. Before we take it back here to all our local news and headlines, we got a clip right here from CBS this morning about what's going on with Hurricane Ida down there in Louisiana.
Ida has left more than 1 million Americans along the Gulf Coast without power, and parts of New Orleans could be in the dark for weeks. At least 4 people have died from the storm, which was the 5th strongest hurricane ever to make landfall in the United States. Omar Villafranca is in Bridge City, just outside of New Orleans, where crews have been working around the clock. Omar, good morning.
Good morning. This is one of the main reasons why the power is out in New Orleans metro area. This tower stood about 400 feet tall. Not anymore. Ida's winds tore it down. And now hospitals, police departments, and others are running on generators, and no one is sure when the power will be back on. As Hurricane Ida and its 150-mile-per-hour winds crashed into Louisiana's Gulf Coast, the storm left almost as quickly as it roared in, taking much of the region's electricity with it. The toppled utility poles and tangled power lines in these pictures have more than 25,000 electricity workers in Louisiana scrambling to restore what they can. But it's a big job. More than 2,000 miles of transmission lines went out of service, along with 216 power substations.
Our 911 infrastructure right now is not operable.
Here is a big part of the problem. This massive electrical tower lying on its side is responsible for shuttling power across the Mississippi and into New Orleans, and its transmission lines are now underwater. New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell.
City agencies have been out since daybreak. They're going block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood.
And that includes some of the state's most vulnerable. Dr. Mark Klein is a physician-in-chief at Children's Hospital in New Orleans. It's still running on generators. He worries about an uptick in COVID cases among kids because of the storm.
Our concern now is that if we congregate a lot of people in closed spaces indoors, in shelters, for example, we could reverse some of the gains that we've made. We really don't want to see that happen.
39 medical facilities are running on generator power so they can keep on providing care to their patients. Entergy, the power company, says it's going to take them at least 4 days just to do a damage assessment, so it could be weeks before power is restored here.
Wow. I mean, when you're thinking about weeks without power, that's saying a lot. And I think it really brings out the ingenuity in so many families and so many people. So again, sending love and, you know, all of the care that we can from the Pacific Northwest to all of you families down there that are suffering, you know, from this storm. Clearly there, I mean, for me, one of the things that is so telling is when they have the, you know, helicopter footage, you know, right? They're showing the overview, the bird's eye view of the area, and you can see the destruction has hit a bunch of different homes, Omari.
Yeah, and it's a tough one down there too. And I was watching some of the coverage, and they were saying that even some of the shelters, they can't fill the full capacity because the vaccination rate is so low down there in that part of our country. And so they're feeling that it might be a compounded effort or a compounded issue as well, with people who, of course, been forced out of their home because it's natural disaster. And then when you layer COVID on top of that, especially this Delta variant, which is very contagious. So want to keep our eyes and ears on that. Me, like a lot of people up here, you got family, what I'm saying, down there in Louisiana. So moving on to some news this morning. It was another shooting last night. It was actually up there on Capitol Hill, not too far from Dick's, and it looks like someone tried to rob somebody, and then the robber got shot and killed. And crazy enough, it's like I know people who were there on the scene, you know what I'm saying, and who were, it was all bad. But it's like at Capitol Hill. It's been a few times now in the last few months where someone has defended themselves with a firearm up on Capitol Hill. But this morning at 10 a.m., Chief Adrian Diaz, as well as Councilmember Peterson, and then also somebody from over at Human Services Department, they had a press conference. And what Chief Diaz was saying is that, but from this year to last year, there's been 100 more shootings. It's like the actual homicides are about the same apart, but it's been 100 more shootings, and that they've collected over 2,000 shell casings, and that violence in this city, gun violence, it's really hitting all categories of the city. So of course, there's an issue we deal with in our community. But then you've got domestic violence, you've got road rage, you've got robberies, and it's hitting the city and it's hitting the county. One of the things that Chief Diaz said is that, they're asking for more officers. That's what Councilmember Peterson is saying, that they're trying to find more officers on the street. Chief Diaz also talked about other programs that they're out there trying to work with. One of them being like the regional peacekeepers, but other programs. They also said that like some of these issues are really coming from mental health. But at the end of the day, people are resorting to guns and gun violence here in the city of Seattle.
Well, this is, it's one of those things that, we want to see a lot of things increase, but not gun violence, right? When we talk about a lot of the disparities that are felt in Black community in particular. And, this is something we really want to see decreasing, but it just feels like, every single week, every single day, almost sometimes, we're really seeing this increase. We're seeing it affecting more and more people. We're seeing it spread out, and to break it down category by category like that, really paints a picture as well, because ultimately it breaks up the idea. And really, it's a misguided idea that this is only happening for a particular population. So when we think about, people not caring about this issue, oftentimes we find that, having a lack of empathy is because you don't feel like it's going to personally affect your lived experience. But the truth is we're seeing this across so many different sectors, like you just described. It's really something we should all be focused on.
Yeah, even the sheriff's office is saying that, all over the county, that they're seeing incidents of gun violence and murders all over the county. So one of the things that Chief Diaz talked about in the press conference today was the Regional Peacekeepers Collective. And there has been some investment. We covered that a few weeks ago, where the city of Seattle invested $1.25 million, and also the county, King County, invested about the same amount. Caught up with Willard Jemerson Jr. of Zero Youth Detention the other day up on 23rd and Jackson, and asked him what the Regional Peacekeepers Collective is all about.
The Regional Peacekeepers Collective is a collective of consortium of organizations working together to reduce gun violence going on in the community throughout King County. So we have connection with various organizations such as Alive and Free at the YMCA. We also have Community Passageways, Choose 180, Progress Pushers, Renegades for Life, and Freedom Project as well, who is part of the Regional Peacekeepers Collectives. We have violence interrupters that show up to deployment around critical incident response, as well as we have outreach workers that go out and work with young folks who fall into our base of who we work with. And at the same time, we also have case managers that get the young people connected to the services and resources in order to improve the quality of their lives. Well, some of the things that the violence interrupters do is they do hotspots engagement and remediations. So some of those things is just setting up. As you see, like every Friday evening, you'll have some of our violence interrupters with Community Passageways and other different organizations, Freedom Project, right here in 23rd and Jackson, because this has been a known hotspot. So we want to make sure that the resources are being pushed into the community where it's needed the most. So those are some of the things that the violence interrupters do. They also deploy to unfortunate circumstances when young people are shot, and unfortunately they may end up at the hospital or even in the community. And so we will show up. We will help out with, on sometimes there's visuals that need to be supported. There's other times where there might be an actual service that needs support. There's some time when there's security that needs to be provided. So there's various things that the violence interrupters do. And then also the outreach workers, and we also have the case managers, obviously is more like a life coach.
Wow. I mean, that's a wide range of things that folks do. But the great thing about it is that it's very community centric. I mean, you're talking about people who grew up in very similar lived experiences and conditions as the young people that they are working with, and working to disrupt this, idea that gun violence or grabbing a gun is the only choice that some of these young folks have. And one of the things that Willard said, because he also spoke on the stage at Black on the Block on Sunday, and one of the things that he said that was really poignant to so many people that were there in the audience, as people were talking about this, was that right now there's a large amount of funding that is being directed at, disrupting gun violence. And so understanding as a city, the entities that have been doing that work for decades or for years, that it's really clear who those entities are, because what we're seeing right now, and this is another follow the money piece, you guys, around disrupting gun violence, is that what we're seeing is that corporations who are feeling that their businesses are being affected by gun violence may be now trying to get some of those funds to say, look, our business is impacted. And it's not to say that, like Starbucks, for one, is one of the major corporations that's now like, hey, we're changing our hours. We're having to shut down certain stores. We're having to adjust to the gun violence because of some of the areas where our stores are in. But the truth of the matter is that we really need to understand how, again, to treat the whole person. When we had Sean Good on here from Choose 180, he really spoke about this, because it's not just about programming. We need to get out of programming and get into institution building so that we can actually find some longevity around the solutions, that they're not temporary through programs. And Willard really made a great point there for us to be mindful now of following that money that's going to be coming into the county and into the state to disrupt all of this.
Right. Well, the thing is that this is violence in America is comprehensive, and it impacts, all aspects of our society one way or another. And it manifests itself, whether, it's a drive-by shooting or a school shooting or a mass shooting. It's something that we need to kind of look at the bigger picture as well, is that, man, we can be a violent people as Americans, all together. It's a lot of violence that we deal with. It's a lot of violence that gets normalized, and it goes into thoughts and prayers. And, I always like to say is like, keep victims in your thoughts and prayers tonight and put them in your action plan for tomorrow, because, it's really going to take a sustained effort on a lot of different levels. I think the other thing is people just assume that it's one solution. It's, here's a quick fix. Man, the issue of violence in America is very comprehensive and intertwined. Everything else, it's very easy to get a handgun. It's very easy to do a lot of things. And now it's like there's such an emboldened spirit around people coming out of COVID and everything else. It's all these short tempers and, I'm gonna get the gun. And so, definitely want to be supportive of the efforts there, of the regional peacekeepers and all these efforts that are out there to curb gun violence in our city.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right when we think about the comprehensive nature of gun violence. Again, it goes back to those categories. It's not just felt in one community or several communities, but it's like you're saying, it's across the county. It's across sectors as well. So I understand how certain businesses, especially in particular zones where we're seeing really high activity around gun violence, may be affected. And for us, I think the important part is to really start seeing this as what are the real key areas and pathways to solutions. Almost every time I think about gun violence, I think about what King County Council Member Gurmai Zahalai wrote as an opinion piece, just saying, how can we be intentional of addressing gun violence as a public health crisis, the same ways that we did with COVID? And when we're giving our updates in the mornings and we're like, hey, the vaccine is readily available, it showcases what we can do when we need to actually be mindful of public health. And so when we start thinking about this as a public health crisis, that it is, we can actually start thinking about the solutions from that very same standpoint. And we'll find that I think this regional approach is really the way to go, Omari. I'm excited to see how this unfolds, because I know they've just been really getting going over the last few months. And it's going to be some really cool things to see how they're able to plan some of those strategies amongst all of the groups that are involved.
Yeah, this is, like I said, this issue here is, when you talk about a buy-in from the public and public health, I mean, that's what it takes, a buy-in. And in the press conference today, you kind of hear, and we'll play some highlights tomorrow. Actually, I'll tweet them out this afternoon. You hear Chief Diaz and you heard Council Member Peterson kind of saying that they're talking about it now like it's an epidemic. And I also asked an interesting question. We'll clip it out. I asked Council Member Peterson, I was like, why is the rest of the council so quiet? And I mean, of course, he came in defense of his fellow council members. Was like, no, everybody on the council cares. They're gonna put something in their budget on September 13th. But I think that the council member probably missed the real big point of my question, was that, like, humanity doesn't have to be linked to directly to legislation. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's meaningful just to come out and say something. It's meaningful. You got to think about, let's talk about Capitol Hill. We spent a lot of time up there on the Hill. It's meaningful if you represent Capitol Hill, which there is 3 representatives of Capitol Hill. There's Shama Suwant, there's Council Member Mosqueda, and Gonzalez. You have 1 that represents District 3 and 2 that represent the whole city. So now, if you're there, Cal Anderson Park, which has been a scene of a lot of robberies and some everything else and shootouts, who from the city council is just going to come out and be like, yo, man, I want to speak to the people in this neighborhood who might be impacted, who might be fearful now to walk across the park to go to Dick's and get a Dick's burger. I understand. You know what I'm saying? That's much different than, well, we're looking for legislation and budget and everything else. You should do that too. But, there's 3 city council members that represent District 3. Where's your voice? It doesn't take a strategist. It doesn't take a political strategist for you to show your humanity to the public, to let the public know, like, hey, I understand that, you're concerned. Someone's died there last night, and this is what I'm saying. And so, I mean, it's fine. It was a good, I'm glad that the council member took the question and that he answered the question. But the bigger picture is like, why are people so silent?
This is something that you've raised several times, and I think you're absolutely right. Part of, building the trust is being transparent. It's also being empathetic when things are actually going on in your district, in your city, in this county, right? It's being empathetic to that, but it's also showing that empathy to the ones that got you in the seat, to your voters, to your base, to the ones that are in your district that you're there to represent. Part of this is really seeing our council members and our elected officials overall as everyday people that we are. right? You guys have lived experience as well. You guys have kids. You guys do different things outside of the elected official, format, and really being able to showcase that, stepping outside of that, and not making sure you get approval from a statement, but that you're just open and honest. Those are the kind of things that I think a lot of people are ready to see, because ultimately we see people that do that during the campaign trail. They try to be very relatable, when they're going for their campaign. And yet, unfortunately, when they get the seat, not enough of them are staying relational. Like, hey, I'm here with you. I'm dealing with it too. There was a shooting blocks from my own home. There was a shooting down the street. Those kind of things are impactful when you're talking about building real transparency and relationship with your voter base and those who maybe even didn't vote for you. But they're like, you know what? You're still representing me in my district. You're the one who won the seat. It's a great thing for people to actually do that, Omari. And you're right. It takes absolutely nothing for them to showcase that.
Yeah, it's like my mama always said. My mama said, good manners don't cost you nothing. Please and thank you don't cost you nothing. It costs you nothing, elected officials, to, just stand with your constituents, stand with the constituents of the Emerald City as a whole. Speak to the humanity surrounding this issue and everything else. And it's funny, people running for office and they don't think, like you said, they walk the streets and everything else. I mean, this is an issue here. People are making it all about homelessness, public safety, and the issue of public safety and everything else is an issue on how people actually address public safety on a human level, on a lived experience level. It's much different than this sometimes up on the floor at city council level. So we're gonna move on here, but I've got one good headline I want to pull back before we go to break and we bring on Dr. Gale, our good buddy, Lewis Rudd over at Ezell's. This is a press announcement that came out yesterday. Wait for it to get up there on the screen. Ezell's Famous Chicken and DoorDash launch initiative to financially empower Black-owned businesses. It's from Ezell's Fried Chicken out of Katie Hall Public Relations. And so it says here, Ezell's Famous Chicken co-founders, Lewis Rudd and Darnell Rudd, along with their sister Faye, in partnership with DoorDash, have launched the Rudd's Rub, RUBB, Raising Up Black Businesses Initiative, a president-setting initiative designed to financially empower Black-owned businesses. And so this is going to be a no strings attached grant that's coming out for Black businesses. Get ready to launch this year. It's open. We've got the link in the comments, so you can get more information there. But it's really good. Lewis Rudd is very much up there at the front of the class when you talk about Black business owners here in Seattle. Ezell's is nearing 40 years in our community. And what started there on 23rd and Jefferson is now, a regional favorite across the Northwest. And they're being intentional and wanted to make funds available for Black businesses.
I love this story so much. It came across my email yesterday as well. And the great thing about this is that you're talking about a direct injection of funding for at least 20 businesses to start. I know they're trying to get more partners on board so they can double that number. But each business will receive $2,500 as Omari said, a no strings attached grant. And they really have removed so many different barriers around access to grants, because they're like, look, you have to fill out a simple application. The main point that they're making is you have to fill out all the answers, right? They're making it simple. It's not going out for hey, we had to put it up and now we're going through this RFP process. They're being very straightforward about their intent to make sure that Black businesses are thriving throughout this time. And what a better person. There's almost no one better in the city to be launching this effort than the brand of Ezell's and our guy, Lewis Rudd. A shout out to you guys, all of you over there at Ezell's, the whole team and the whole family, for seeing this need in our community and for being very intentional about these funds being directed towards Black businesses. As a private entrepreneur, you're able to do that. You're able to use the word Black. And I so appreciate you for it, because we have seen our businesses be hit hard by this triple pandemic. We talk about it all the time. And ultimately, this is going to be really, really helpful for so many businesses. Oh, it's exciting.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. I had an opportunity to talk to Louis Rudd yesterday in the afternoon, and these are funds that are very hopeful. Small business, man. Every dollar counts. Believe me.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, every dollar really counts. And it's just great. And I called Louis and I told him that, like, man, we're more than happy to be supportive in any way around this effort. And I mean, Ezell's is just one of these companies that we're just so proud of, and Louis and Ezell's are always setting the bar of what's possible and what's expected of a responsible community member.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It's also an inspiration to so many businesses. When you think about Ezell starting with one shop and expanding the way that it has, it just showcases what is possible here when people really begin to enjoy your product, your service. It is a consumer-run business. They did that based on demand, right? So they had to provide more supply. That's a beautiful story for all of these businesses who are going to be receiving this grant to take hold of, because one day it could be them.
All right. Good stuff. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back.
Hey guys, it's Besa Gordon from Converge Media. You can catch me on my show Rewind with Besa, which airs every other Saturday at 2 p.m. anywhere you watch Converge Media. Now, I know a lot of us still have questions about the COVID-19 vaccine. However, here are a couple things you don't have to question. Everyone 12 years and older in Washington State are now eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. It's free, and you don't even need insurance or citizenship status to get vaccinated. If you still have questions, and I know you probably do, you can visit kingcounty.gov/COVID for additional information. You can also call the King County COVID-19 call center at 206-477-3977 to get COVID-19 and the vaccination questions answered, get translation services if needed, set up an in-home vaccination appointment for yourself or someone you know may not be comfortable at a vaccination site due to a disability, anxiety, or other reasons. Look, with summer being here, now is the time to get all your COVID-19 vaccination questions answered so we can all get out the house and live our best lives again.
Market Street Shoes, slinging kicks since 2006 with styles that support you and yours, getting the F outside or staying comfy when you just want to lounge indoors as well. But wait, Market Street Shoes is way more than just a shoe store. Gear up for your next outdoor adventure with apparel and accessories that'll have you looking good on the streets, the trail, or even in your own backyard. With locations in Ballard, Redmond, and online at marketstreetshoes.com, there's undoubtedly a style and size that'll fit your lifestyle.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. And right now, we're joined by Dr. Howard J. Gale of SeattleStop.org. How are you today?
Good. Thank you, Omari.
All right, welcome to the Morning Update Show.
Thank you.
All right, we finally got you here. We'll jump right into it. We actually got a few minutes here today. Our schedule got rearranged a bit, so we have more time for discussion. So first of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and then what is SeattleStop.org?
Sure. So I'm originally a New Yorker. I've been living in Seattle for about 23 years now. My training is as a research psychologist. So not a clinical psychologist, but a research psychologist. I've been an activist my whole life since I was about 13 or 14 years of age. And most recently, my activism has been on behalf of police accountability. So that's briefly about me. SeattleStop.org is a project to try to get real accountability in Seattle through a citizens initiative. And I think before I talk about what Seattle Stop is, I think I should say, just really briefly, police accountability is often confused with police reform, and they're not the same. So police reform is a spectrum of anything from reforming the police, trying to retrain them, as Bruce Harrell would suggest, maybe having pizza with them on Fridays if they go a week without shooting people. There's that end of police reform, and then there's defunding, which might be a little bit of defunding, taking away money from the police department to actually have alternatives for community safety, violence interrupters. And then the other end of that spectrum would be abolition, would be getting rid of police. So there's a whole range of options when we're talking about from police reform to police abolition. Regardless of where you are on that spectrum, we have to have accountability. And the reason for that is even if we faced a future where there were no police, we still have people that are acting with some authority of the state or the city to make decisions about people's lives. And there has to be accountability for that. So regardless of where you stand on the policing issue, there has to be accountability for public safety. So that's, I think, what Seattle Stop is about, is having real accountability, and accountability that's based in the community and based on civilians in the community.
What got you into this realm of police accountability?
As I said, I've been an activist my whole life. I'm from New York. I've been beat up by police. I've been falsely arrested by police. I've had federal cases where I've won against the police for abuse. So I've experienced it. I grew up in a neighborhood in New York. At the time, my neighborhood on the Upper West Side of Manhattan was a low-income neighborhood. There was a lot of violence. There was a lot of police abuse. So it's something that I've always been concerned about. I think starting back in 2010 with the John T. Williams killing, which was the Native American woodcarver who was shot by a police officer, I became very involved in this.
Just 11 years ago, just the other
Right.
year. Yeah.
Right. It's 11 years ago, end of August. Right.
All right. So why don't you explain to our audience what the current accountability, I mean, we're live, so you can't take forever, but what the current accountability system is.
So,
but then, hold on, let me tell you what the current accountability system is, what's wrong with it, and what you guys propose.
Okay. So again, because we don't have a lot of time, I can give you mentioned John T. Williams. So John T. Williams was killed in 2010, 11 years ago. If we look at, I actually wrote the numbers down. If we look at the 10 years before John T. Williams was killed, the Seattle Police Department killed 26, possibly 27 people. 26 or 27 people. After John T. Williams was killed, that marks the beginning of police reform in Seattle. So in those 10 years or 11 years now of police reform, we've killed 31 people. The SPD has killed 31 people. So what I would ask the audience is to consider, how do we have police reform if in the 10 years after John T. Williams we've managed to kill more people? The other thing we saw from the summer of 2020 is that more than 99.9% of the really egregious cases of police abuse have gone without accountability. We have officers that got written or, written, whatever they call it, written, not discipline, but a slap on the wrist for all that abuse last summer. So I think the way accountability is working right now is it's police investigating police. So the Office of Police Accountability is the only body that's tasked with actually investigating police abuse or a police complaint. Of the 12 individuals in that office that actually do the investigation, 10 of them are police sergeants. These are police sergeants who actually rotate out from regular SPD duty into the OPA. After 2 years, they go back. So we're expecting that police sergeants who have to work with the same officers that they're going to investigate are going to be truly independent investigators. Now, there are 2 investigators that are civilian in the OPA. Those civilian investigators are prohibited from investigating any serious abuse. So if we take, for example, something like the Terry Caver killing in 2020, May of 2020, the OPA just released a report on that last week. That killing was investigated only by police officers. And the conclusions that the OPA and Andrew Meyerberg, the director, came to are basically the same conclusions that the Seattle Police Department came to. They mirror each other. So there's no independence. So what Seattle Stop is proposing is that we have a purely civilian-based system similar to what they have in Nashville, where there's one body. So in Seattle, we have three bodies. We have the OPA, which acts independently and has no community control. They investigate the police. We have the OIG, who's supposed to investigate the OPA if they behave badly. And as we've recently seen with the article by Carolyn Bick in the South Seattle Emerald, in fact, the OIG is not doing its duty to oversee the OPA. They're actually avoiding overseeing the OPA. And then we have the Community Police Commission. That's the third part. So there's the OPA, OIG, and the CPC, Community Police Commission. And the Community Police Commission, since its inception, has failed to criticize or to take action in almost any case. So what we're proposing, instead of having this bizarrely articulated system where no one knows who's responsible, you have one body, a community body. They hire independent investigators who are not and have not been police to investigate the police, and that they hold open meetings where people can actually see the internal workings of the system.
So I know that in speaking with OPA and Director Meyerberg, one of the issues that their office has is that they have to match up something against a policy, right? And so it's like, and what there's a finding one time, so it was last year, where he had made over 80 recommendations to the Seattle Police Department to change a policy. And he's like, his office is bound by a policy. Did this officer violate the policy? Not if the policy is correct or incorrect, he can make a recommendation on that. Right. But that being said, doesn't it seem, it seems to me like if people want actual accountability, then policies need to be able to have to change as to, you know, the policies that guide the actual police, no matter who's investigating. If the whatever they've done is not out of policy, then even an investigator will say that it's still in policy.
Right. So let me give you a concrete example, the way this works in Nashville. I witnessed a session back in March in the Nashville Community Oversight Board, where there was a question about two officers who constantly went to a woman's house and tried to do a warrantless search for the woman's son. They did this about 8 or 9 times without a warrant. And the investigators in the Nashville Community Oversight Board investigated and said, okay, they violated certain policies. What the board said when looking at that investigation is that's not acceptable. It goes beyond just violating policies. So for example, an officer in Nashville can do a warrantless search if they get the homeowner to actually sign a statement. The officers were claiming we forgot the paperwork. The homeowner gave us her verbal permission, which was not true. But again, there's a lack of a paper trail. So what the board asked in Nashville is, how is it possible that an officer went 9 times to the same house and each of those 9 times forgot the paperwork? So this is not a policy question. And I would say the same thing happens in Seattle. Andrew Meyerberg is deflecting responsibility. So for example, in the Caver case, what Meyerberg found is that Officer Gregorio, who shot Caver, violated a policy of de-escalation, but did not violate a policy for use of force. How did he manage to separate those two factors? He separated them by making assumptions that Terry Caver was intentionally and by choice turning around with the intent to stab or kill Officer Gregorio. Terry Caver was he was a paranoid schizophrenic who was in extreme mental health distress. The police, 6 officers were chasing him with their guns drawn. They had a canine unit chasing him. This is a man who's already paranoid. There was enough information before they got to the scene to know that he was in mental distress, and yet they chose to escalate the situation. How do you separate then that from the use of force? Andrew is trying to parse those things in an artificial way, but worse than that, in saying that Officer Gregorio didn't violate the use of force, he's making assumptions about what Terry Caver's intentions were. So for example, if you watch the Terry Caver video, what you will see is that he's shot with a taser, and the very split second he's shot with a taser, he's running, he's shot with a taser. he appears to turn around. What's not clear, is he turning around because he's collapsing from the taser? Is he turning around because all of a sudden 2 police cars cut in front of him and he's trying to escape the police cars? We don't know that. But again, Andrew Meyerberg didn't ask those questions. So I think this attempt to say I can only hold officers responsible for policy violations is a little bit artificial, because in every one of the killings that Andrew Meyerberg has investigated, for instance, 2019, the SPD killing of Ryan Smith, also mental health distress with a knife, Andrew Meyerberg found that there was no policy violation, even though they also failed to de-escalate in that instance. So I think the problem, what you're identifying, let's break it down into two issues. Yeah, policy is a problem, but we have to be able to have an independent investigation where we can have faith.
Yeah, but the investigation, right? I'm not against that. What I'm saying though is that how can policies change? It's like, just like my other question. Right. It's just like, so you have the independent board, they come out, they're like, man, this is horrible, this is ruling, this is a bad policy. What's the mechanism now to actually change? Well, because Meyerberg sends over these policy recommendations to SPD, and it's up to SPD and the union to be like, maybe we'll take it, maybe we won't. And then what role does the actual contract with somebody like SPOG, how would they play into this, into the board or the council that you're proposing? Because SPOG has an incredible amount of power and negotiating power here in that contract. And we've seen that even when you talk about OIG and OPAs particularly, they were intended to be much stronger than they actually are right now. But the city negotiated away a lot of the power that OPA and OIG was supposed to have in their contract with SPOG. So how would what you're proposing, how would it interact with this contract, as we know there's a lot of power coming from there?
Excellent question. So let's take those questions in reverse, the last one first. It's very important to realize that people keep on saying the SPOG contract took away a lot of power. That is a false claim. Here's the reason. If SPOG had said, City of Seattle, you get everything you want in the 2017 ordinance, Andrew Meyerberg would still be the decider of discipline, and we would still have majority of officers investigating.
He'd also have subpoena power too.
Right, he'd have subpoena power, but what is the point of subpoena power if you're not going to fully investigate? That's my argument. My argument is, even if we had the full effect of the 2017 police reform and accountability ordinance, we would still have police investigating police.
Is the issue with the actual office, or was it with the director?
Both. Actually, what I would say is we should never place ourselves in a position, this is what they decided not to do in Nashville. And by the way, they're making the same decision. They've already voted that last November in Portland and in Oakland and in other cities. They've made a decision. We can't have a God that heads up an agency to make these kinds of weighty decisions. We're all fallible. I wouldn't want to be the head of that agency. I wouldn't trust you, even though I love you and trust you otherwise. I wouldn't trust you with that power. No one should be trusted with power. That power should be vested in the community. So to go back to your question, here's what would happen, what does happen in Nashville, and what we're proposing in SeattleStop.org. Our proposal is that there's one board. That board does the investigations. If it turns out there's a policy violation or not a policy violation, if it's what's called lawful but awful, that board has the ability to say we need to change this policy. And under our initiative, that would be mandatory. The police chief would not have an option. What we actually wrote in, which would be legal, is an oversight or civilian control board would actually make a decision about a change in policy, would then forward that to the police chief. If the police chief agreed with that, it would go into effect. If the police chief disagreed and the board maintained its position that we need to change this policy, then it would go to the city council. The point being that the city council then, in an open and public process, would make that decision. Now, I want to get to your other point, which is really important. What about the police contract? Here's the answer. In Nashville, in 2018, they had a citizens initiative that was voted on by, I think, 54, 55% of the population. When the new police chief came into the city of Nashville, he said, "Who am I to overrule the clear wishes of the majority of people in Nashville?" Do you think the police union fought it? They didn't. So that's the answer. Instead of rendering this as a political problem where the council and the mayor and SPOG all debate each other, we bring this into the public. We have a clear vote on it. And once we have a majority opinion that is in favor of this kind of process, I think the police are going to be in an untenable position. We still have to, there's still mandatory bargaining. We're still going to have to bargain a contract, but as happened in Nashville, and I will say, by the way, not just Nashville, in Newark, it's a much more rough process, but Ras Baraka, the son of the famous poet Amiri Baraka, in 2016, put in place a radical new civilian oversight. The police balked at that. That's going to have to be fought out in the courts. We're going to see what happens in Oakland. We're going to see what happens in Portland. But here's the thing. We've been doing police reform in Seattle for 120 years and it hasn't worked. We have to try something different. So what I would say is a one-stop shop, community board makes all the decisions about policy, about investigations and discipline.
We've only got a few seconds left.
Good.
How would people get on this board? But two, an even bigger picture, like how would this process come about? It goes on a ballot, or
Right.
it's just something.
Exactly. Initiative. Right. We're talking city initiative, not state. City.
Right.
So city initiative to answer. And then quickly, our vision is to have a 21-person board. There would be 7 people that would come from the organizations that are actually putting forth this initiative. Then there would be 7 people chosen by the city council, not the mayor, which is our current process for choosing the community police commission. So 7 people chosen, or not chosen, 7 people that come out of the initiative process, 7 people from the city council, and then the last third, the other 7, would then be in an open community process that's put forth by the 14 initial board members. So again, everything here is about transparency and trying to invest the community in being involved in this. Very different from what we have.
So before we let you go, how can people get up with you? And
So before I forget, let me say 2 things because we didn't get a chance to talk about the Caver killing and the report that came out, which actually shows really clearly the failures of the OPA and Andrew Meyerberg and the failures of our system. So if you go to tinyurl.com/justice for Caver, that's tinyurl.com/justice for Caver, CAVER. You can read all about my analysis of that. And again, to get in touch, it's seattlestop.org, seattlestop.org. And again, this is a work in progress. We're hoping to get something on the ballot. And part of our hope, I-940, which got rid of malice and did a lot to forward police reform statewide, we're still kind of stuck with having police investigate police. We don't do that for doctors. We don't do that for nurses. We don't do that for teachers. We don't do that in any other aspect of our system, but we still have police investigating police. So in order to change that statewide, I believe the way to do that is to get something working in Seattle, which can then be used as a model.
All right. Dr. Howard J. Gale, seattlestop.org. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Trey Holiday returns to the set. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Hey, it's me, downtown Seattle, C-Town. Wish you were here. Here, to explore inside, outside, and everywhere in between. Where it's easy to get my good side. Here, where my rooftops invite you to come early and stay late. Where every view is a postcard, and each night out might be your best night ever. See you soon. Love, C-Town.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Welcoming my amazing co-host, Trey Holiday, back on the set.
Hey, what's up, O?
What's up?
Hey, it's been a great show today.
Yeah, no, interesting conversation. There's a lot of different groups, organizations, man, looking for, accountability, looking for reform, some looking for abolition. I think that was a good spectrum that was laid out there. It's like, hey, there's some people who just want to change this, or some people want to abolish the police. Accountability definitely is something that's required in any space, though.
It really is. I mean, we're talking about it with our elected officials. We definitely talk about it from multiple perspectives around policing. I think that so much of this is about, the public being able to be, feel there's some trust being built, or feel that there is accountability being taken on any side. So I agree.
All right. So before we get out of here, did a taping last night with poet and author Chelsey Richardson. And I think it's going to be our next Off the Clock. It was real. We was only supposed to talk for like 30, 40 minutes. We ended up talking for like an hour.
She's amazing.
Yeah, an hour, 15 minutes. But Chelsey, yesterday, she did her poem, one of her poems, and it's called Aisle 12.
I'm sitting on a stool inside of Safeway right across the street from Rainier and Henderson, staring down aisle 12. There are 4 items displayed that I can pick up and walk out with if I have just enough change. Greeting cards, digestive help, pain relief, and cough and cold. I assume I can find some relief for my newfound back pain, maybe some Tums or Imodium to ease my lactose intolerance, but I don't think I'll find a card that I like. Nor will I find a card that will ease the suffering Trayvon Martin's mother feels while she lies awake at night. The sound of racial slurs murmured in the folds of her sheets, the kind that rise and fall in her chest, growing into a chaotic mantra on television screens across the US. And I hope I don't find that race card sitting there on that colorful shelf, waiting to commit a suicidal dive into my hands. There is not a card that embodies all truth, so please don't go long and throw it in my face. There's a boy standing next to me, brown leaf dusted skin, mild in manner. I ear hustle, hear him say he's a mama's boy, flowers his lips on his mother's cheeks before he leaves, kind of mama's boy. He admits his parents are his perfect roommates, and that is why he will never leave the garden. I can't help but wonder if there is a bullet waiting for him somewhere. A pointer finger hiccuping on a trigger, itching for an echo in our ears, pulling our skin more and more distant from each other. The truth is, we need help. We need someone standing on every urban, suburban, inner city corner, passing out words that are life jackets, possibly in novel form, the prologue written to self-appointed neighborhood watchmen and the police. The first line would read, "Stop. You are pointing your gun at a figment of your imagination. Not all Black people are monsters. Some of them flower their lips on their mother's cheeks before they leave. Some of them make perfect roommates. Police, tuck away your polymer toys. We all know that you hold in your holsters the kind of heavy metal that really kills kids. I am not against guns. I am just pro-second chances. And I have nothing to give these mothers because blood is not a handkerchief. And I'm just sitting on a stool inside of Safeway, right across the street from Rainier and Henderson, staring down aisle 12. Come find me.
Woo-hoo! Chelsey does it once again. Chelsey Richardson, man, kudos to you and your works. Beautiful piece there. Oh, I'm excited for this Off the Clock, man. You've been getting some great people in that hot seat. I love it, brother.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this Off the Clock too. And I mean, Chelsey just brings like so much energy. You know, I was communicating with her yesterday, you know, after the shoot. And I started the sentence saying, you know, what you say, but then I had to stop myself and rephrase it. And I said, how you were heard, you know, because it's like a lot of, you'll find it was a real dope conversation that I thought was really going to be focused on poetry and structural poetry and this and that. And I mean, we touched on a lot of stuff. We touched on her book that's out right now and everything else, but it's really just life. And I'm really excited about it too, because it's not political as well. You know, always on these politicians and this and that, police and everything else. So I'll be hyping it up. It'll probably come out this Sunday. I'll let everybody know tomorrow, but it'll probably come out on Sunday night. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Great work, man. And once again, one of the things that I get really excited about is, you know, the brilliance in our community. I mean, I saw Chelsey at Black on the Block as well. And I love being able to get connected with folks. And, you know, I got Chelsey's book, man. There's some fire in there. And that run right there is hot, man. She's phenomenal.
All water has perfect memory.
Yeah, there we go. Come on.
So good. All right, Trey Holiday. Looks like we're right at the top of the hour. Any last words before we get out of here?
Man, always, you guys see yourself as a part of the solution. Clearly, you know, Chelsey has. We had Howard here who also is trying to do that. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why we need so many voices that are part of these solutions. So please find yourself as one of those voices making great choices to become a part of the solution.
All right, good stuff. I think we got any programming. We got a lot of production notes getting ready to come out this week. We had some stuff didn't quite make the timeline for today. We got a lot of stuff, a lot of good videos. The producers have been out in the field doing what they do. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really looking forward to that. I think we're going to put Chelsey's poem right there on our Instagram this afternoon across our social platforms. So feel free to share on that. Otherwise, I think we're going to get out of here. So we want to remind everybody, yeah, there you go. There's a wide. Want to remind everybody to go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.